Everyone good? Good afternoon, everyone. I am joined today by some of the members of the newly formed Boston's Equitable Recovery Task Force, a group of community stakeholders dedicated to coordinating our federally funded recovery effort across the public, private, and nonprofit sectors. I thank the task force for committing themselves to the important work ahead to help make our city's recovery from the pandemic strong and equitable. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate you. I am also joined today by Boston City Councilor Michael Flaherty, who will oversee the distribution of recovery funds for the Boston City Council. Also today we have my Chief of Environment, Energy, and Open Space, Reverend Mariama White-Hammond. We have Chief James Hooley of Emergency Medical Services, as well as our Chief of Health and Human Services, Marty Martinez, our Chief of Equity and Inclusion, Selena Barrios-Milner, and many other members of my team. COVID-19 has had and continues to have severe public health impacts on our city. It has also worsened many of the economic and health disparities that have persisted in Boston across race and ethnicity, gender, and neighborhood. Those disparities, the wealth gap, the jobs gap, the opportunity gap for students, and health inequities contributed to the disproportionate rates of COVID in Boston. It also caused deep economic pain in our city, especially for working class families and communities of color. I am committed to lead Boston not only out of this public health crisis, but also to a stronger, more equitable city. One of the critical tools we can use for achieving this goal is the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA. This is $500 million of one-time federal funding. I pledge to use that funding not only to help us recover from this as a city, but also to make real progress to close those very disparities that were exacerbated by the pandemic. We cannot return to the way things were before. Our only option is to go better. This work will build on the FY22 operating budget that we passed this summer with the Boston City Council. It will be in addition to the $81.5 million of ARPA emergency relief funding already being put to work to help Boston families and businesses right now. And it will deliver on our shared commitment to an equitable recovery from COVID-19. To identify the best investments, we are seeking your help. Since becoming mayor of Boston, I have prioritized listening to community voices to ensure that our work is built to reflect your ideas, your needs, and your aspirations. That's why today I'm announcing the launch of Let's Go Better, a listening campaign to engage the community and identify Boston's recovery needs. This effort has three main components: issue-based community meetings, an online site for information and ideas, and an equitable recovery task force to help develop recommendations. I want to acknowledge again those members of the task force that are here with me today. They are Reverend Willie Broderick II, Michael Curry, Lou Finfer, Shagun Idawu, Pam Coker, Suzanne Lee, Catherine Lynn, and Frederica Williams. I hope I got everybody. I want to thank you for your unwavering commitment to the City of Boston and for your partnership. Let's Go Better will help us identify ideas, concerns, and priorities of Boston residents, including people disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. I want to encourage your participation. Over the next several months, you can join one of several community meetings across the city. You can also complete our online survey by calling 311 or visiting boston.gov/recover to learn more about our efforts and how funds can be used. Again, I am encouraging all Boston residents to participate in this effort. We want to hear from essential workers, from those who rely heavily on public transportation to get to work. We want to hear from low-income working families and communities of color, seniors, youth, and our small business owners too. We want to hear from everyone, as well as all of the workers in job sectors that have been shut down or have had to limit their hours of operation because of the pandemic. Through this funding, we aim to strengthen our public health and well-being by focusing on eliminating food insecurity, addressing the opioid crisis, and promoting violence prevention and trauma support. We will develop strategies to close the racial wealth gap with a focus on boosting access to capital for small businesses and homeownership. And we will train our workforce for the future with a focus on career pathways and training and digital access and literacy and living wages. This focus on addressing persistent disparities builds from the Health Equity Now plan, which was announced last month. Through the efforts of the Boston Equitable Recovery Task Force and the engagement of residents across our city, we will build the next set of recommendations to ensure we do not go back to normal, but that we go better as a city. As we distribute our American Rescue Plan funds, we must also apply many lenses to our decision-making, one of the most important being climate resilience and environmental justice. We cannot talk about a healthy and equitable recovery without addressing our climate crisis. From the record heat waves in June to the record rainfall in July, our city is living with the impacts right now. To underscore the urgency of the climate crisis, I want to lift up a new report released by the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Among its many poignant points, the report states that it is not too late to mitigate the worst effects of our changing climate and to adapt in a way that protects our communities. Boston has been a leader in climate action, but even bolder steps are required at this moment. We have committed to carbon neutrality and have updated Boston's climate action plan. We are working in partnership with the City Council to update our building energy reporting and disclosure ordinance to set real emissions targets for our large buildings and put them on the path to carbon neutrality. We are directing resources to provide immediate heat relief to our most vulnerable residents, and we've launched a pilot through the Environment Department, Age Strong, and the Boston Public Health Commission and the Boston Housing Authority to identify residents with the most need and provide them with cooling support. We will need support from all levels of government and the community to combat the climate crisis. The inaction in the past has led us to this tipping point, but there is still hope for our future. But we must seize this moment for bold and transformative action. Because the health impacts of climate change are here impacting us today, Boston is expected to experience another round of record high temperatures with hot and humid weather this week. That is why I am declaring a citywide heat emergency beginning on Wednesday, August 11th and lasting through Friday, August 13th. To help residents stay cool, cooling centers will be open at Boston Center for Youth and Families, community centers from Wednesday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Please stay hydrated and drink plenty of fluids, especially water. Keep cool with cool showers, shade, fans, and air conditioning. Limit outdoor activity to the morning and evening hours. Rest often in shady areas, and never ever leave children or pets in parked cars. If you're headed to a large body of water, please swim where lifeguards are present and always watch out for children near the water. Call 911 immediately if you are experiencing or know someone experiencing signs of heat exhaustion or may appear in distress. Residents may also call 311 with any questions relating to city services. More information on heat safety tips can be found at boston.gov/heat. Chief James Hooley can also answer any questions that you may have about the heat emergency. Now, thank you, and let's continue to look out for one another and support each other. Before I conclude, I would like to invite Boston City Councilor Michael Flaherty to give very brief remarks. We are very fortunate to have the City Council as a partner as we redefine our plan for the federal funding in the months ahead. Thank you so much. Michael, where's Michael?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and to all the members of the Equitable Recovery Task Force. I'm happy to be here as wearing two hats, obviously as a member of the task force, but also as chair of the City Council's COVID-19 Recovery Committee. And today's announcement by Mayor Janey about the public engagement campaign for the American Rescue Plan funds is exciting. It's a great opportunity for residents all across the city to weigh in and make suggestions and recommendations to the task force and to the mayor as to where these very necessary and precious funds need to go. I can also here to commit that the council will obviously be hosting a complementary process, not duplicative, complementary, to allow for further engagement about the issues, the issuance of these funds, and look forward to working collaboratively with the mayor and the task force. I would like to stress how critical that the ARP funds go to residents, communities, and industries that were most impacted throughout COVID-19, the COVID-19 pandemic. Our at-large councilors and district councilors know their districts and the needs of their constituents well, like our mayor, so it's important that we all play a role collaboratively in guiding this process. As chair of the COVID-19 Recovery Committee, I assure the members of the public that there will be a transparent, thorough process that will ensure that the funds are allocated effectively and efficiently and as quickly as possible, and particularly to those who are disproportionately impacted. I've heard from residents already who are asking for funding to support a robust recovery for our small local businesses in the communities that they serve, our restaurant and hospitality industry, funding to support more affordable housing and tenant protections, our schools, and in particularly in light of the uptick in violent crime, funding for proactive interventions and programs that will disrupt cycles of violence in our city. So again, I'm here to be a supporting cast to our mayor in this task force, as well as to represent my colleagues, and again thank Mayor Janey and the members of the Equitable Recovery Task Force, and to all city workers and to all residents who are committed every day to make our city a better place as we move forward. So thank you all, and thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Councilor Flaherty. I should also mention that we hope to have Representative Dan Hunt here, who is an important partner at the state level on this very issue. He was not able to join, but we certainly thank him for his partnership and his leadership at the state. At this time, I will take a couple of questions. Thank you.
So is there a timeline for when the city will be figuring out what to do with the disbursement of the money?
Yes, we'll be working on that with the task force over the next several weeks and months with regular reporting on what is happening on our progress. Yes.
Will you make the final decision what tasks they recommend, and who makes the final decision?
Yes, and so we are looking to have a very inclusive process involving the residents of the city of Boston. The task force is here representing their leadership represents lots of different sectors in our city, lots of different neighborhoods in our city. They will take the information, they will make recommendations to me as mayor. Thank you.
Do you think the decision about how money will be spent?
This money, as I think people know, is to be spent over a number of years. We've already begun investments with $81.5 million that is doing important work right now, and we have many more millions, thankfully, to invest in our community. And so we will be making, the task force will be making recommendations and how that money will be spent and over the course of time.
Mayor, is there anything more that can be done about the homeless population in the city? There's complaints to the 311 about tents near the roads, and about, on the common, the homeless on the common. Business owners saying people are reluctant to come to certain areas of the city. And then also there was this incident in front of the Boston Public Library, which I'm not sure if that was homeless.
Yes, so part of this money is being targeted to invest not only in housing overall, but to make sure that we are dealing specifically with our homeless crisis here in the city of Boston, with the opioid epidemic here in the city of Boston. And so there are dollars that will be invested. In the interim, We are already hard at work identifying supportive housing and making sure that we are doing as much as we can to connect residents in our city to services that they desperately need, as well as providing some support and relief to our residents in terms of quality of life and to our business owners who are being impacted by this.
Quick question. Does the city plans to do anything with the Roundhouse Hotel at Nassau Pass and where the plans fell apart last week? Is there anything with it from the city's end?
Well, we will continue to work with residents in the area. We'll continue to work with nonprofit leaders who are experts in this space to see if there's an opportunity to use this as supportive housing. We heard loud and clear in the last community engagement process that there were concerns about this. We are doing supportive housing in other parts of our city as well. I know residents in this area felt like a lot was happening here. We're also working with mayors in other cities to make sure that there is a regional approach. Too much of this burden has fallen to Boston, and so we're also encouraged by the investment of Governor Baker to make sure that there is more support across the Commonwealth.
Does the city want to turn that hotel into a full building of supportive housing or shelter spaces?
So I've just answered that question, Sean. Thank you.
Can you talk about the 3 officers injured in that outside the Boston Public Library? Do you know their conditions and kind of what they went through?
So this incident is under investigation. It is very unfortunate, and it underscores the importance of the mental health pilot that I just launched last week, making sure that we have the right response to mental health crises in our city. Thank you so much.